Hey guys, Tarkecat here, and today we're joined by RaizQT, Octavian, and Nugiyen. We're going to try and just jump right into it since we have a lot to talk about. We will be talking about the BlizzCon news. We'll talk about Diablo first, and we can talk about Warcraft after, because that's like the nice sweet spot. I know I'm very much in the minority in the fact that I'm slightly interested in a Diablo mobile. Nugi, what was your reaction to the whole announcement in general?
I mean, I was watching the BlizzCon, right? Just the 2 hour thing, just searching through. I finally found the Diablo part. It's the least. It's the I don't know. It's when Wyatt Chang stood up there. I don't think I've ever cringed as hard ever watching anything BlizzCon related ever. It was awful. He was trying so hard to sell this like we're all so excited and everyone should come join the Blizzard World family and friends conglomerate thing. I was like, but what game are you selling? Yes, we're doing this. We have taken Diablo 3 and made it into a mobile version. And then we stripped everything we did with the story from 3 because that sucked anyways, and we're just gonna start over from 2. That's kind of like, that was great. It was, I don't know, I was not excited at the least for the actual announcement. I mean, I think it's fine that they're making a mobile game. I don't blame them at all. I mean, anyone who wants to make a mobile game, like, be at peace. I just don't want to buy it.
It's funny too how you immediately know that you don't want to buy it, as in it's definitely not going to be free. That's a pretty big problem that a lot of people are going to run into after the whole necromancer thing and expansion thing. It was already kind of a problem, and now, yeah.
It's so tone deaf by Blizzard. It's entirely the wrong venue to debut this sort of thing. Like, as Nugi said, a Diablo IP game in the mobile space actually does make some sense. And if it's designed for the platform, could work pretty well. That's one of my other worries, that it does sort of seem like you said, where they're just taking Diablo 3 and putting it on a mobile device potentially. And I have worries that an ARPG is not going to feel good to play on a tiny little screen. But there have been examples in the past of AAA IPs making a mobile game that has been good and fun. Like Fallout Shelter is the one that I was looking into. Fallout 4 released alongside that a little bit afterwards, and Fallout Shelter was tied into it and was, built with mobile gaming in mind, and actually probably amped up Fallout 4 sales. Like, it can be done right. And they did everything wrong with this announcement.
Okay.
Even the like immediate lead up was wrong, because they basically announced how they have all these projects, and it was like a really smug video, how they have all these Diablo projects and everything. And then they said that they're going to be announcing big things at BlizzCon. And then everybody was like, oh my God, Diablo 4. And then Blizzard was like, no, we mean like big things, but like not that big. Like, calm
not
down,
for you,
everybody.
big things, for Blizzard, big things.
For the shareholders,
After you
big
bought
things.
the tickets, by the way. Oh, you've got the tickets now? Whoa, calm down, dude. Not that big anymore.
Tarky,
Like,
that research that I was talking about before, I was looking into other like mobile games that had been released recently or talked about recently at press events. And it turns out that Gears of War is getting a mobile game spinoff that was talked about at E3 by Microsoft. And it didn't cause any sort of stir at all among the fan base. Like, nobody really minded. It's going to be a collaboration with Funko Pop. Like, they're doing a collaboration that's very obviously kind of a cash grab with another company to make little like cartoonish figurine version of Gears of War, which is just so far and away from what Gears of War is, to me, in my mind. And yet still, the video has mostly positive likes, and everybody below is like, oh, this is adorable. That looks like fun. I'll give it a try. Because they're also releasing Gears of War 5, and because they announced it alongside that. And like, I found an article where he was interviewing the guy who was behind the splitting of Gears of War into like multiple different platforms and, trying to expand into mobile. And one of the questions that he answered was just so telling. As a creator, what are the things that are preventing people from gaining access to our world? Is one of the things that's pretty obvious in the and they want to expand to other platforms. I think that any mature gaming franchise needs to think about how to expand and provide its fans and players more way to connect with a product that they love. With the Coalition, the studio is now hitting its stride. We developed the vision and capacity, jargon. and they say it's all being led by Gears 5 that we're calling Gears Prime. And we're creating games around this that are focused on the platform they're being made for. They aren't ports of an existing game, but are games that are designed and created for the platform in mind.
Yeah, that
Like,
makes sense. Also, I'll just quickly say,
Microsoft is approaching this better than you.
oh,
That's
100%.
maybe a red flag.
So even as the only person on the entire internet who seems to be slightly interested in it, I admit the pre-announcement was awful. And I'm not sure if it was... The reason why I'm not so against it is because I went in with such low expectations, because a lot of us have been thinking there was going to be a D2 remaster. Like, a lot of us have been thinking this will happen eventually. Then we had the pre-announcement, which was... don't get that excited. Like, when I saw the don't get excited announcement, I was like, there's no way they're announcing anything we actually want, because that was too much. Like, you never say, guys, by the way, you're a little too happy, so, like, stop, please. So I was kind of expecting something out of the gate. But Mike, this is my very brief kind of, like, reason why I'm slightly interested in it. I travel a lot. I spend a lot of time in hostels. I have Crohn's disease. I spend a lot of time in the loo. So I'm like the perfect, like, needs a game to play while shitting person, right? So I want a good portable ARPG. Ideally, I would have wanted, like, a D2 remaster on Switch. Like, I really wanted, like, a good Switch thing. Because Diablo 3 on Switch doesn't appeal to me at this point, because Diablo 3 is just so dead. Like, it hasn't had anything interesting happen to it. So that was kind of that. So I'm fairly optimistic in it has potential. I'm not hyped for it. I don't think it's going to be amazing, but I am interested if it is good. If it isn't good, I will be the first person to, like, shit on it and be, this is absolutely awful. But I do think there is potential in that genre. I've recently started playing old school RuneScape on my mobile this morning because that just came out recently. Like, you can do some cool things with mobile, and I do think some people are kind of saying that nothing can ever be good on mobile, and I think that's ridiculous, you know.
So what I'm hearing is that you're more interested in just like any ARPG on a mobile right now.
No,
Like
exactly.
it's not really
Yeah,
that
exactly.
it's Diablo at all.
Exactly,
It's just the fact
exactly.
that we're finally getting a game that you can play on mobile.
Like, if it was, like, Grim Dawn on mobile, or even if it was, like, Wolfson, like, it doesn't have to be Diablo, you know? Like, I just want...
Well, that's the problem though that people have, right?
I don't
Yeah.
think any of
I don't
these
think
work
anybody
well.
like the problem is that it is Diablo. Because
Yeah.
you're looking at it from a very like vacuum point of view, at something at a game that hasn't had all this history previously. Like if you were to compare it to like Xbox PoE, for instance, I think it was reasonable for people to be upset because it was something new. It was just different. People didn't really understand it. Like, why is this happening? You know, they obviously looked at it as a cash grab directly, which, you know, obviously to a certain extent it would be. But they can still make a nice product, and PoE in general has a good history and a good standing with its community. But that's not the case with Diablo at all, and it hasn't been for years. And so that's why things like what Octavian mentioned with the Gears of War, you need to have a right approach to this. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how good the game is. The community will stand against you no matter what. It has to.
You have to know your market going in. Like, the very concept of a mobile game is such an uphill battle for a game that's coming from where Diablo is. Like, I don't think good is good enough for Diablo Immortal. It's gonna have to be amazing. It's gonna have to be great for it to be good, because it's working from such and Blizzard did absolutely no favors for the game in this regard, but it's working from such a deficit to begin with.
Oh, that I'll agree with 100%. But do we all think this is going to make a lot of money?
Yes.
Ye-
No, but
I wouldn't
it's not
be-
gonna
I
hit
wouldn't-
any of the core audience. It's just gonna hit a new audience of mobile gamers.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, they have the reach and the marketing budget to be able to advertise this enough that it's going to find people who want to play it, so long as they didn't do an absolute shit job.
And, like, so the other thing
They
which is
could-
also kind of
to be honest,
interesting... I'll go.
Just real quick, they can do an absolute shit job. Like the problem is that the intentions are so clear as to what this wants to be. The same way the intentions were extremely clear with Heroes of the Storm. But over there was in a way more on the line because they were competing like in like the biggest genre of games at the time. But when it comes to this, the biggest problems are the intentions to me, because even if they were to do the whole Asia thing, right? Like, oh, everybody's screaming that Asia, they're releasing it over there, it's going to be popular there, and it's going to earn a lot of money, it's going to be a successful product because of that. Probably, but then you don't announce it at BlizzCon. Like, that's the weirdest thing to me. Why would they announce it at BlizzCon? And that truly shows to me how, yeah, I mean, disjointed they are. Because if they really wanted to use this as a cash grab, then they would have announced it in a different way. But because they did it at BlizzCon, to me, it shows that, yeah, they just, they're so away from their own community. It's not even real.
You don't think they should announce it at BlizzCon at all? I don't think it's the
No.
wrong venue to announce it on. I just think it's the wrong thing to have as their like like a standalone, and as this like they're hyping it up as something that the Diablo community as a whole should be excited for, right? That they're sort of like just deciding you need to be excited for this because this is the way that you need to game now. I think it
Sure.
felt I don't know. They're
Yeah, but
trying to
like,
dictate how we should play games all of a sudden, which I do not like whatsoever.
we're not like some sort of huge group of businessmen here, and not everybody on like uh, Reddit is a marketing major, genius philanthropist. It was pretty obvious that this will be hit with a lot of backlash. Um, so there's just no reason to do it at BlizzCon, because in a way yeah, maybe you got a little bit of uproar, but you've really alienated the people who truly want to play your games, and that really shows to me that how disjointed they are.
See, one thing which is interesting, because like I think the announcement was terrible. I think the handling was awful. I cannot
Yeah.
defend like it was announced god awfully. But one thing which is kind of interesting, because even just like in chat a little bit now, because a lot of people are like, oh, the problem is this will make money in Asia. Is there a problem with a company like Blizzard making a game for an Eastern market as their main target? Like, is that an issue?
Not necessarily, but if that's what they're trying to do, it doesn't make any sense to have pushed it in the way that they have in the Western market right now. Like, if they're saying, all right, screw it, we don't really care about catering to our current market, we're going to try and chase a new one, I don't see any reason to burn the bridges that you've built to your current community any more than needs to be burned. Unless, as Raiz says, you're just so out of touch with the people currently playing your game and the people who want to play your future games that you really just don't get that they won't like this.
See, one thing also which I think is a little bit interesting, because they had the China port for Diablo in the last couple of years, and that's been making a lot of money, and that's got a lot of microtransactions into it. So from like the Chinese market point of view, if this is like being sold primarily for that, from a timing point of view, it does kind of make sense. It's like you sold D3 over there, you're getting a lot of money through microtransactions in it, so you've got a pre-established Chinese or Eastern Diablo audience, and then if this kind of mobile gaming is very popular over there, they would be really hungry for this kind of product.
It's just never going to work like that, though. And now it was never going to work in the West, and in the East their outreach is so much more significant than a simple BlizzCon. It's like unmeasurable. Like even for the recent Worlds tournament, over all platforms in the West, 2 million people watched the League of Legends tournaments. In Asia, it was 200 million. Like, it's just incomparable. So the announcement at a BlizzCon doesn't do anything for Asia at all. It only, like Octavian said, I really like that word. It just burned bridges. There, there's no outreach here. This won't benefit them at all. And that really, because I heard that argument before where people were like, oh, they're just really disjointed. They just really don't understand what their community wants. And I was like, wow, that's so ridiculous, right? Because it's Blizzard, right? Like, they didn't get where they are through not understanding their audience. Clearly, there's something more going on here. But after this announcement, man, it's like
There's
I don't
been
know. And those
previous.
previous announcements, all these follow-ups, you just
Yeah.
can't help it anymore. You
The-
know?
I'm not actually too invested in a lot of Blizzard games. I've not played very many of them, but from what I'm aware, as sort of an outsider's point of view, there's been previous iterations, somewhat recently, of what you know, disconnections, or what could be called disconnections between Blizzard and their audience as well, such as the whole fiasco around not wanting to allow WoW Classic to be played, and then eventually coming around, and now they're making their own version of it, right? Really, for me, what baffled me the most was the way in which the announcement was handled. I can't go too much into depth on whether or not like I'm going to enjoy or play Diablo Immortal at all, because I probably wouldn't have played like a Diablo 4 very much. I'm not all that invested in the Diablo series as a person. But I'm just so incredibly flabbergasted as to how much they mismanaged this announcement. So I actually am curious as to whether or not there's been a pattern of this leading up till now.
With Diablo, for sure. I mean,
With
they've been
Blizzard in
promising
general,
things.
but Diablo as well, I suppose.
I don't know about Blizzard in general. For instance, the Warcraft 3 stuff, because Tarky was mentioning earlier how he thought there's going to be maybe a Warcraft 3 mobile. To me, that was like a really bizarre thing, because the way they've been handling everything, the way they've been like flying out professionals, actually releasing content for the first time in many years, actually asking for feedback, having tournaments behind the scenes. All of this was a lead up to something that for sure would have been some sort of either remake of Warcraft 3 or a continuation of the series. Probably not a full game release, but maybe some sort of expansion, but that would be difficult lore wise. So most people assume that there's going to be a Warcraft remake. But in the case of Diablo, I mean, this is years of just like mismanagement, to the point where they stop communicating. And even now, look at the way they handled their YouTube channel. They've deleted the trailer videos 2 times in expectancy that the dislikes are going to go away. They've apparently canceled the Q&A for the Diablo game at their own convention. Like, this is not a matter of the community being unreasonable. Sure, there are people who say like, "Oh, Blizzard, they can't make a mobile game. They can't." Like, no, that's fucking bullshit. They can do whatever they want. But if this is the way you're going to handle your fans, I mean, there's bound to be backlash like this.
If they came out with any kind of D4, I would probably try it, even if it didn't look that great. The mobile game, I can just flat out say no.
No.
I
even like these.
No, but I'm just not getting, just even out of principle, right? How much of a good game it actually might turn out to be. I don't care. I just don't. I can't stand by them for as a company anymore, and that actually matters to me, and I think that matters to a lot of people. Right, you invest a lot of like you are emotionally invested into them, and that just whether you think that's a good thing or not, it's just the case, right?
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Couple decades.
This is the fallout, and I don't blame you at all, Nugi. But this is the fallout they need to be aware of before making this announcement. You can't take this back. Like they could have released a Diablo IP mobile game at some point, and I'm sure the fan base would have actually probably been okay with it, and maybe a large number of them would have played it if it was handled right.
I think that's the problem. I think it's multiple people doing like trying to do multiple good things at the same time, which came out as a shitty thing. And that's where the whole like, it's gonna be great, get this, wow, hypers, guys, poggers, and then they're just like, no, calm down. And then again, calm down. Oh no, we're not okay, relax. Like, I think it's multiple people, and that's really where this fell apart.
Question.
They want all the benefits of the hype without any of the responsibility of having to deliver on a product that people want.
Yeah, question though. So, since we all agree that it made sense for them to make a mobile game, not Diablo though, what do you think the reaction would have been if it was a new IP, they'd announced they were doing a new IP mobile game, but then still announced nothing for Diablo? Because Diablo fans were pissed last year that Diablo didn't even get mentioned, like, to be fair.
StarCraft fans are a little pissy in some comment sections that I've seen here and there, because I don't think there was anything announced for StarCraft, at least nothing significant. But like, StarCraft fans aren't denouncing it as the end of the game and saying that they're uninstalling, the Blizzard app, whatever it's called, and deleting it and moving to other games in the genre. Like they haven't lost those people forever. They're just annoyed.
It's the same thing again with the comparison of like the PoE release and then the Xbox. Yeah, there were some Project PTs who uninstalled the game and stuff, but that was due to like long leading issues and this being the cherry on top of the cake. As long as you've got good standing with your community, the majority will understand.